G'day and welcome back to Ford Off-Road. Once again, working on the LS Patrol. And in this video, we're going to start building a tray for it. Before we get into that, I'll just show you some stuff that I've done between videos. So that's the fuse cover box and the fuel pressure reg mount that I was talking about. Harrison and Angry Engineering TIG welded it all together, and I just ground it back. Also, I cut out some 3.5 inch pie cuts and gave them to him as well to weld to the lid of the Patrol Doctor airbox. So that's all plumbed up properly. Also got some thermo fans, some good quality Spal thermos. Got one smaller one on this side because I had to clear that power steering hard line, and a big powerful one on that side. Now I'm not quite sure, and that's just on an eBay shroud. I'm not sure, they're all wired up just into the ECU on the wires that Killer Customs gives you. I don't know which one's going to come on first because I can't start it because the battery's dead flat. But I want to make sure afterwards that the big one comes on first and the small one's for backup. So I might have to change the wiring around. Anyway, I've got the guards on it. I can't remember if the guards wanted in the last video or not, but they're just sitting there because I had to move them from where they were. They're getting, hopefully the rest of the car's getting painted before Easter, which right now it's the middle of March. So hopefully I'm getting the rest painted before Easter. Anyway, this is where the attention will be for this video. So the type of tray I want to build, if you go onto my Instagram, Ford Off-Road, you see that I've built a couple of trays, but the one I'm making for this is going to be a bit different. I want to do a full tube tray. So tube's really hard to work with, or at least I find it hard to work with. Bending it on the right angles, notching it on the right angles, all that type of thing. It takes a lot longer than just chopping and welding RHS. So the base frame of it, the base frame that holds it all together is going to be out of RHS because it's having an alloy floor on it. So you've got to have a flat surface for the alloy to attach to, otherwise it'll just bend around it. But everything that you'll see will be tube. So I'm just going to make 4 mounts to start with. It is going to have 8. I'm going to use all the mounting points on the chassis. I'm just going to make 4 to start with, because I'm going to do the corner ones and get basic frame together before I get too serious into it. Also going to make a little flap in the floor so you can, because the tray's going to be pretty close to the battery, make a little flap in the floor so you can lift it up and get the battery out easily. And then I want to mount my spare tire on kind of like an angle, like trophy truck style. Anyway, bit to do, so let's get into it. So that's how I've done the mounts. I've only done 4 like I said earlier. So bit of 5mm plate, drill a hole, put a bolt through, and then the actual bit that's going to go to the frame of the tray is welded on top, and then you just got the nut underneath. And I think that's a pretty clean way of doing it, because then when it's on the ute, that's all you see. You don't see a bolt head. Alright, now I'm going to cut the runners up. Or what I call the runners is the pieces of steel that connect all the mounts. They're probably only going to need to be 1900 long, but I'm going to cut them at 2 meters because on both the front and the back I'm going to need to notch it out. So I'm going to start off with them too long. I'm going to weld them on too long, and then once I've made the frame, I'm going to notch them. If you don't have one of these, I never knew about these. I was watching Dirt Lifestyle on YouTube a few weeks ago, and he was using one of these. This is the best tool ever. Little Milwaukee handheld, whatever you want to call it, bandsaw. Makes things so much easier. No sparks, it's not really that loud. Just blazes through anything. I've got a really fine tooth blade on it, and it blazes through anything. With a coarse tooth, you cut anything. Anyway, enough talking. Obviously, I don't want to be welding next to a fresh paint job, but I'm just going to tack it together on the car and then pull it off to weld it. and besides that, it is the back wall that you're not going to see, but I still don't want to wreck the paint, so I'm just going to do small tacks, pull it off, weld it. You can see what I mean there, what I was talking about before, how it sits inside, so you can weld the whole way around and get a nice strong weld. Okay, so next I'm going to do the headboard, because I'm going to need to tack the headboard in place before I can do the back frame, so I've got something to tack it to. So I have this jig that I've made up for my other trays whenever I make an RHS headboard, and I'm just going to use it to help making the tube board. And that's a jig for the back of the tray, so it's the right width. So I've already cut that one to the length that I need it to be. I'm going to mark where I need it to bend. So I've done it a couple of times. That's a bit confusing. It's confusing, but it's not confusing because I've wrote it, so I know what I mean, but sometimes I have to think about what I wrote. So anyway, I need a helper to hold this because it's really hard to balance 5 meters of pipe out of the pipe bender when you've got one end in, so I'll get someone to help. Got my helper, marking all the stuff, making sure it's right. I got my holder helper. Now I've just got this other jig out, and I'm making the tray 2 meters long, so that's 2 meters where the bend needs to end, and this is my cheater piece. That's where I'm going to start the bend. So that's so I got the right width. So now I'm going to bend the actual tray frame itself. That is 3.2 millimeter wall for the actual frame, and the flares will also be made out of 3.2 wall, and the headboard is 2.6 or something. Right, so just put that bend in. Now you can see what I do is I lay it in. I've got that on. That helps you bend both on the same axis. It's just easier to bend. So I put that in. I get the cheat piece with the cut in it, put it against that, and then I know where to start the bend on that in order for that to finish along that edge. So gonna bend it right there. And yeah, it is compulsory to use black text that are marked black pipe just to make it difficult. Okay, a bit of help from the girls. We've got both layers of the headboard and the main frame bent. So now I'm going to make the headboard. Didn't you want to help me? She was a good helper. Now I'm going to make the headboard, the pattern, the cross in it. Right, I've just put the first one in my jig, and I didn't realise it at the time, but I did the good old 100mm trick. So I've just cut and ground an edge on that so I can weld it a little bit shorter. I'm supposed to do 107 between the middle bends, and I did 117. So anyway, easy fix. Come to help, Miss Cassidy? Yeah, you come to help? Hello.
Hey.
Hey, you're stealing it. Where are you going? What are you doing? Now normally on my trays I'll just do a V, except I want this one to have kind of like a comp look, so I'm going to do a cross, which is a lot more notching and measuring and cutting and grinding and cutting and grinding and cutting and grinding, but it's going to look cool in the end. And it's Moen ute, it's an LS ute, so why not put in a bit of extra effort. Righto, that's in there. Takes a very, very long time to get that one in the right spot. so that it looks like it's actually one straight piece of metal. Righto, got the headboard, got that bit cut off and notched out where I want it to be. Headboard's clamped there, it's not in the right spot yet, I just eyeballed it. I'm going to now measure from the frame to the edge of the tray, both sides, and make sure it's in the exact right spot, because if that's out then the whole tray's out and it'll sit sideways on the ute. So I'm going to do that, tack it in place, and then we'll move on to the actual full outside frame. Righto, I've got that all there's notched out and welded on there, and also these ones across, and they're across because that's where the flap's going to lift up. That's where the battery is, so I don't have to take the tray off to change the battery, or if it goes flat or whatever. Righto, that was a bit of a mission by myself, but I've got it on there. Looks pretty sick. Headboard matches the ute pretty good. I bent these bits a little bit too low though. You can see they're I want them to follow that bend, but they're a little bit past it. That's alright. With the bottoms of these, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to connect them to rock sliders, so I'll make the rock sliders coming out to the bottom of that, just so it's a little bit extra strength. So now what I'm going to do is make the rear piece. Now I want the rear piece to come, it's going to kind of come down and around, but I want it to be about there so you can just see the pipes poking through. Okay, that was very hard to clamp in spot by myself, and it's also still not in the perfect spot. I still got to move it like in and out a bit to get on the right angle, but that's basically what I wanted it. Just there with the tips, just so when you're driving behind it, you just see the tips dumping out, and it'll look sick. Making the flares now. Cut two pieces to 2.5, and I'm going to bend them around. Now this is the hard bit, because you've got to get the offset of the bend on the right angle, otherwise it won't contact the headboard in the right spot, and they'll stick out too far or not far enough. So I can always cut it and re-weld it back on in the right spot, but I prefer to get it right the first time. So I'm going to go for a 10-degree offset bend. Now I'm going to do is fully weld the frame, and how I'm going to weld it so that it doesn't warp or anything is I'm going to weld all the downs in a sequence, and then I'm going to weld half of the tops, flip it over, the other half of the tops, flip it back, the other half, and do that. Because if you just weld that, and that, then it's going to slowly bow up. So you've got to kind of weld them in a sequence so that it doesn't bow. And because this is having an alloy floor, normally when I build the trays, if they bow while I'm welding the frame, I can straighten it out by focusing on one spot when I'm welding the floor in. But with an alloy floor, I can't do that, so it cannot warp while I'm welding it. So I'm going to fully weld this and then cut the flares to size. And I haven't welded the ones that come all the way out of the edge, because I want the checker plate to sit flat, and I'll fill them up with silicone before I actually put it on. So now I'm going to cut and notch this piece to the right height. Have a double headboard, and there's going to be a bit of a gap. I'm going to put some dimple dies or something between it. Alright, so that one lines up perfect on the tray. Once one's done, you can just lay them together on the ground. Mark where the inside of the notch needs to be. Mark where the outside of the notch needs to be. Chop things. Righto, so I've got both the flares cut out. This laying over there now because I've got to go to... I'll have to wait till Monday, go to the steel joint and chop some stuff up. To chop and bend some stuff to put on top of them. I've also got this piece of scrap that laying around. That's what I'm going to cut out to do the headboard cutout with, and I'll use his guillotine while I'm there as well. I'll do the headboard and I'll do the back piece where the lights go. Now I'm just going to chop and weld that in there so it's something for the alloy checker plate to sit on, so it doesn't bow down in the corners. And also because in the corners there I'm going to have like an eye bolt so that I can tie stuff down on the front and the back. And in these corners I'm going to do the exact same thing but with some little pieces of angle iron, just so that the alloy has a good base to sit on and it's not going to bow down when you put some... Okay, so I've got those in there. So that's about 4 mil thick, so it's going to have an eye bolt in there. And I also put one big one in the middle, right in the middle, for when I have my dirt bike on it, so that I can use the tie downs, front wheel in the middle, and it's not going to dent in the alloy. Okay, that's those supports welded in. What I've got to do now is wait till Monday or Tuesday, go down to the local fab shop and chop out some sheet metal. That's pretty much the structural frame finished completely. Just the extra bits that I still got to do. I've got to jump online and order some lights. They're probably just going to be the same lights that are on all my other trays. Jump over on to my Instagram, you can check those out. Anyway, made a fair bit of progress in the last 2 days. Hasn't been 2 full days either, so... I'm also going to, don't know if it'll be in this video, but I'm going to put some new plugs and leads in there and get a new battery, because that battery's dead flat. That was only just so I could actually run it. I always knew I was going to have to get a new battery. But it is moving along quite nicely. So yeah,